What's happening, guys? Celtic CC here. I wanted to do a part two for the story time on the USA influences because I went through the video and realised I missed a lot of stuff out, and that was just a case of trying to put everything down in one video when there was a lot of information to go through. So I've just started recording while I'm uploading the game, like, do you know what I mean? So first of all, that guy I couldn't remember was called Dr. Martin Luther King. I don't know why his name slipped my mind. I just couldn't remember at the time. Do you know what I mean? But I also wanted to give a shout out to. He's one of my favourite comedians, and he was another one who was. I find him quite awakening with his perception of things as well. He also sort of what can you say, buffed the sort of Michael Moore type perception of America, and that's Bill Hicks. And if you haven't seen him, Bill Hicks is brilliant. I mean, he really puts in good digs to the Republicans and the Conservatives in UK and stuff like that, and takes the piss out of, it would have been like the first Iraq War and stuff like that. I mean, even his perception on, I agree with his perception on things like taking magic mushrooms. It's like, my perception is, what government has the right to call something from nature illegal? I see that as kind of a defiance against God. Do you know what I mean? Plus, magic mushrooms have a way of opening up people's minds to be more nature. So, do you know what I mean? It's almost like an evil thing. And the war on drugs. Look what the war on drugs led to. I've seen videos of the military chucking pesticides down in South America, wrecking coca fields and stuff like that. So it's just led to more motherfucking. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we've got the coca leaves, which used to be sacred, turned into cocaine powder, instead of just being chewed like they used to. Weed, which used to get you grow on the sides of the roads in America, and no one used to be bothered by it, and has now been turned into this big, capitalist sort of drug thing. Right now it has anyway. Do you know what I mean? But it kind of buffed the whole drug side of it. I'm having a rolly while I do this, right? Another shout out, obviously I've said I'm into martial arts, stuff like that. Bruce Lee was a big influence. He started his journey off in America. It didn't go too well. One good film to watch that doesn't actually have Bruce Lee. It's called Dragon: The Bruce Lee Story. I think you can watch it on Netflix. That's a good film to watch. It hasn't got everything perfectly spot on, but it gives you an idea of what his life was like. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, his last film, Enter the Dragon, was American produced. Do you know what I mean? And that's a really, it's a classic, isn't it? It's a classic kung fu movie. Bruce Lee, obviously, wanted to bring his culture over to America, did a good job of it to the Western world, and he kind of sort of gave birth to MMA, which was cutting a lot of the crap out of kind of these elitist type of martial arts, which wanted to just specialise in one area. And he said, well, you've got to try and combine it and gel it all together to create mixed martial arts is one of the best in the world, isn't it now? And that leads on to obviously UFC. When I said America was isolationist, UFC is one of the ones that goes against it. That's probably their best export of sports onto the planet is UFC, no doubt about it. UFC is popular in Britain, it's popular in Europe, popular in Russia. So it's not all isolationist with America. UFC is definitely I'd say the diamond in their crown when it comes to exports. In my opinion, that's probably the best thing to come out of America. Plus, you've got a lot of Americans, Christians as well. Or not just America, but a lot of Christians as well who do UFC. So, and that's the right way to go with it, I think, definitely. Also, boxing as well. That's another good export. Not that, it's necessarily just America, but obviously, you get a lot of good, American. Don't worry, that's Knox playing it. Boxers and stuff like that. Mike Tyson's cool and everything. Muhammad Ali was a bit before my time, but I've seen some of his old fights and stuff like that. So, boxing's cool as well. I am more of a fan of UFC personally. I think martial arts it's a bit better than boxing. Personally, that's just my perspective. Not everyone agree with that. What is it? Oh yeah, my perception of American preaching comes from actually seeing American Christian preachers on TV, and I don't think they're very good, most of them. Some of them go on about this like young Earth shit, and then they're just fucking wrong. They try and deny climate change. They don't preach enough environmental, and they are very much on the sort of money route and the capitalism route. It's tech quite badly, a lot of it, I find. You know what I mean? Probably a lot of them, Trump supporters, which says it all. Like, I mean, any Christian preacher in America should be a Trump supporter. You know, um, they should know that he's been terrible with environmental. You got to be, as I've said before, you got to be environmental to be a Christian. Um, other good TV show I ended up enjoying was Game of Thrones, that came from America. That was fun. But I actually liked the last season the best. People slagged it off, but that was my favourite season because I found it kind of, I don't know, it was the whole sort of character development thing. It got a little bit draining sometimes, and then it was like, by the last season it all went absolutely batshit crazy. I thought it was great. I thought it was a load of fun, like, do you know what I mean? So I couldn't understand why everyone was just like slagging it off and everything. I just thought the last season was the best one personally, but whatever. And but I actually do prefer Vikings. So Vikings is produced by the History Channel, and I recommend you watch it. I've said that before, but Vikings as a TV show is one of the best things to come out of America, definitely. Vikings is really good. I mean, if you look at the world stage, I mean, look at the Norse influence on the world. Places like Sweden, Norway, very environmental. So as a religion, the Viking religion was always kind of like, one of their sayings was, obviously it was very battle ready religion, but one of their sayings also was, like, money brings squinting eyes and stuff like that. So their philosophy of being careful with money, as she has quite a lot of Christian, roots to it as well. Like, do you know what I mean? In a lot of ways. So it's quite an interesting little dynamic with it. And this is a funny one to end on. Something I found out that it's made me laugh. It's like, I can't say much about the American education system, but I know for a fact it's not considered very highly ranked in the world. It's a little bit poor. And the stat came out, I found out recently, that 10% of Americans believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows. And I can honestly say in my whole life in the UK, I've never known anyone who thinks chocolate milk comes from brown cows. So that's worrying when statistic like that happens. It worries me when you see like these like flat Earth conspiracy theories and some of the other stuff. I feel like there's a dumbing agenda going with America to keep their people submissive and overconsumptive and push the capital agenda and not become native style and awaken to the fact that America's been run to shit. And it's all well and good to do that for a while until suddenly something like COVID comes about, and then your country starts rioting, and then suddenly it's like, oh shit, well, party's over. Do you know what I mean? It's a certainty now. It's an undeniable fact. Like I've said, capitalism is a fail. You cannot have infinite growth on a finite planet, of course. So it's like this, American capitalist agenda has reached the tipping point of, basically, the realization that it's broke and needs fixing. And so that's why I'm hoping Biden comes in and does a good job, Great to see the back of Trump. Glad he lost. Great to see the Republicans out of the way for 4 years. Hopefully Biden can come in and sort America's shit out. So yeah, I just wanted to chuck those extra ones on. I can't believe I forgot UFC on the first one. Fucking hell, that's like, UFC's been a big influence. It's like, I have actually seen them. I have actually been to a live event. I was in Nottingham, and it ended up being Dan. It was my favourite fighter at the time, Dan Hardy. It ended up being his last fight. It did. He got diagnosed with wolf heart not long after it, but I got to see him win his last fight in the UFC, which was cool in Nottingham. So that was great. That was one of the best sporting events I've been to live, like, definitely. Oh yeah, and cheers guys.